my name is Maurice Washington. I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Executive Talk. Those that are watching live and those that are listening later on our podcast, thank you so much for joining us. In today's segment, the title of today's segment is So You Think You're Set. I want you to think about this title as we go along because this is a very key issue that's going on. It's kind of underneath the realm of everything, but it's actually something that we need to bring to the forefront. So with me today to actually talk about this is Carrie Farron with Summit Global Private Wealth. She's going to give us a little bit more understanding as to what that means as to so you think you're set. Because again, this is something that we need to bring to the forefront of the table. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Carrie Farron to the table. How you doing, Carrie?
I'm doing just marvelous today, ready for a really good conversation.
Yeah, I know this with you and your years of experience. I bet you this topic really bothers you on some level, right?
It bothers me extremely. It really does because I see what's going on. I see from my own experience. I just see a lot of things that the information is just not out there for these people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump right into it because, again, this is a very important topic. And again, this is where people, because we're just coming off of a lot of stuff that's going on in the economy right now. And one of the patterns that we notice is that when things were really volatile, people were really nervous, really upset, very stressed and panicking. But right now, it seems like everybody's starting to relax again. Is that what I'm understanding? Or how would you see it?
I think a lot of people are relaxing now. The market's been going back up and everything's, looking exciting again. But things can change overnight like that, and it can cause a lot of stress. Things just change. It's like a roller coaster, our life right now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so as we go through this, if we're going to go ahead and jump right into this, is I want people to think of a couple of things. I want you to look at the show title and so you think you're set. I want you to always, and everything that we talk about today is think and also think about set. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into one of these topics Carrie wanted to bring up is the average American mindset. So what I found, Carrie, and tell me your thoughts in regards to this. Most people have a goal of retiring, or at very least not working as hard as they were at the retirement age. And most people only see the glory of retirement versus what it takes and what decisions that have to be made to make retirement a comfortable experience. Would those statements be true?
Those are very true. This is a very good topic to even talk about and start with, is because I work with so many people that are really looking forward to their retirement. They talk about it all the time, some of them in just another couple years, and they're feeling comfortable, they're ready for it. But then when I look at what they have, it's a long shot. I see that it's going to be almost impossible for them to reach the goals of retiring and actually stay retired and not unfortunately having to go get another temporary or part-time job, at the time. And that's what they're seeing now is they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I get to retire soon. I'm not going to be stressed out. My future looks great. I'm going to do all of this stuff. But what's not in their mind is, are they really in the right place to do it with just the amount of money that I see they have invested and saved?
Sure. And it's interesting, Carrie, that the thought process doesn't just start when you're an adult. This is the thought process that happens in your teenage years. This happens when you're a younger kid. The vision has always been, I can't wait to go ahead and get a lot of money, get a house, get married, get kids, and then I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna retire early in my 40s, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and live the best life ever. Right? That's a typical American mindset. Is that what you see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the people, as you grow up, what your job is to grow up, have fun your first 18 years, but then work hard, get a degree, work for 20 years and then retire and you'll be just fine. And that's what people were kind of used to. Even me, when I was younger and then I started in the corporate world, I was like, no problem. This is what I learned. I have a job now. I've got a 401k plan. I'm going to retire at 55 like my parents did, and I'm going to be set. And at that time, I had no idea what I was getting into. And
That's
that's what
it.
most
That's
people
it.
are seeing right now.
And remember this point that we just brought up, folks. So we're going to talk about that really intently in a few. But let's go ahead and get to this point here. Is what comes against your plans. And so, no matter how smart you think you are, you can't predict the day and hour that you will pass. And no matter how smart you are, you can't predict events that will come up in the future. And also, a lot of people fell at retirement because of decisions in their earlier years. Carrie, pick one or pick a couple of them that really strike you.
Yeah, I'm looking at pretty much the first and second one kind of go together. You can't predict what can happen tomorrow, and I love the way that's in there, is because if just an example that pops in my head, you're happily married, you have two things of income, the money's flowing, everything's great, but you know what happens tomorrow? Maybe worst case scenario, a death in the family. That's worst case scenario right there. But you also have the other scenarios of something happening in the economy, something happening that's going to make some big changes the next day, and you don't understand what's going to be that fluctuation in the market. But there are things that you cannot predict, even no matter how smart you are. You can't predict events that will come up in the future and when your time will pass. And people really, unfortunately, need to be ready for this. It's hard to think about, to look at things like that, but there are things that are going to happen that could change your total view on where you're heading in the first place. And people need to think. It's hard to think that way, worst case scenario, but they really need to have that in their mind and to somehow have that in some financial plan.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing I've learned about folks, Carrie, is that we're so we do everything such by plans, meaning we can even we'll even try to predict that the age that we'll pass. We'll say that we'll pass about 89, 90. We'll go ahead and put that out there as if we know that's what we're guaranteed to push to. And so really we're kind of setting up a pathway without knowledge. But within that, I mean, we're putting a lot of stuff out there that is unpredictable. It's a lot of hope. But with that hope, there is a lot of consequences within the middle that sometimes goes against that hope. And that's where the frustration, that's where the disappointment seems to settle in with a lot of folks, because once they hit a certain age, and my guess is about 50, 55, when they look at everything, they're like, this is not going the right way.
Mm-hmm.
What age have you seen where people have that revelation?
Mm-hmm. It's around, from what I've noticed, and kind of my age. So I know the people in my surrounding, my age, and they're starting to hit reality. It
Yeah.
is. I'm starting to hit reality. I just turned 54. Okay.
Yeah. Happy
And
birthday. Happy birthday.
thank you. And that scared me. It really did. And so I think about the other people that they're getting close to their plan, their retirement, where they want to be. And they're looking back at the dreams they had when they were children growing up, and then the dreams that they started having. And they're looking back going, wow, what dreams did I hit in my life? Did I even do what I wanted to do? And if I did, am I set now to continue to grow? But this is the age I'm seeing a lot of people, they're starting to get the fear and regrets.
That's right.
Which, I don't like to hear, but they're regrets of things they could have done. And so, yeah, once it starts getting to that age, it's getting a little shaky. And I think they're looking at their long-term retirement too, is going out a little bit longer than planned, because 50 years ago, things were different.
That's
So
right.
as they grew, things changed, and they're just not in the position anymore that they thought they would be in.
Yeah. I want to bring up a couple of thoughts along with that. And again, go ahead and pick out a couple, which one makes sense to you. So part of people's financial confidence comes from the fact that you're still in your earning years. This is a true and false reality. And also, this is where comfort starts to establish itself in your life. Would you like to expound on a couple of those?
Yeah, the part of people's financial confidence is, yes, if they're seeing their plan, like I had when I worked at Hewlett Packard, I was able to have that financial confidence because I saw the money coming in. I saw my benefits that I had and my retirement plans. and I was looking into my future and saying, yes, this is going to be good. So my confidence was going, I had the income, but I really wasn't looking at my future, where that income was going to come from then. I thought that everything would be set. So even though I was confident at the time, things weren't bothering me. It's like I said before, once you get to this point, you're all of a sudden changed and you're wondering what happened. So the financial confidence and then those comfort zones, you start to establish itself in your life. You're comfortable and everything is smooth. But you don't think about the thing as like we're talking about, I think I'm set. I did at the time, but I'm finding out later that you're just not. Confidence has some pros and cons with it. Yeah, you just have to sit back and think about it and look at what you have.
You bring up an interesting point. What point were you working at Hewlett Packard? What age? How old were you at that point?
Oh God, I think I think it was around 24. I worked there from 24 to 2005. So whatever age I was there, but it was about 11 years. And yeah, I thought everything was awesome. I thought I had everything great, but I was young and I hadn't really planned the future yet. So it didn't even come across my mind actually to tell you the truth that, what's going to happen when I get to that age.
And that's exactly my point. It did for a lot of people. We run into that same pattern. When you're at that age, when you're 24, you're so stoic that nobody can tell you anything, right? So thinking you're set, it doesn't happen when you're in your 35s and your 40s. That's actually when panic happens, right? It's when you're 24 that this comfort starts to set. When you're in your earlier years and you first get your job, and you're moving at such a fast rate, meaning you got your great job, you're participating in your 401k, you have a home, you got married, you have your kids, you got a dog, you're doing so many adult decisions, right? And it's training your mind that you're thinking that you're set. So when we talk about this is where comfort starts to establish itself in your life, this is where actually people start to come into a lull. They're not as aggressive anymore because you're doing so well initially that you start to lose sight of the future. Because again, time is an interesting thing. You think you have a lot of it, but it always creeps up on you after, I think it's after your 30s, every birthday comes like every 5 days, right? So, so then I want to bring this point up is what keeps people in the comfort zone and feeling set. So take a couple of those that stand out to you, Carrie.
Right away, the lack of accountability. I like that one because they're not wanting to hold accountability with someone else by really focusing on their future, making sure that they're looking past their retirement and they have accountability with people and yourself to be able to set those goals and continue to grow with them. So once you get into that comfort zone, your accountability kind of just, well, I really don't need to do it anymore. I don't need to check things anymore because I'm doing just fine. My fixed mindset, I'm just fine. So I don't need to worry about it. They just go on day by day.
Yeah.
Feel the comfort and not worry about the future. And that's when it comes to that old video. They're not the old one, but the last video we did with that comfort zone thing. People are
that's right.
They're feeling like, okay, I'm in the middle. I don't need to really grow, and I'm not really worried that I'm going down, whatever. Everything is cool.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Obviously, the fixed mindset always worries me the most, Carrie. What I found, and I'm going to give you an example because we talked about this in the last video, is we talked about working out. Mm-hmm. The weird thing about the transition from being a teenager to an adult is you still think your body is going to still process the same way. that it used to when you were younger, where you can eat anything and it didn't matter, and you would still be whatever size that you were yesterday, right?
Mhm.
Well, the body, if you have a fixed mindset and the body is transitioning to where it's slowing down, it's going on the other side of the fence. Well, you got a problem here, Scotty, right? All of a sudden, it's not going away like it used to back when you're 18, back when you're 17. It's staying there. You got a new friend with you. So the same thing with having a fixed mindset with finances. You can get all these things and you don't realize that you've come into the same place of having another fixed mindset that everything is fine.
Mhm.
You think tomorrow's going to be just how it was. You think that you're not going to go through a midlife crisis. You think that there's not going to be having any challenges with kids. You think that there's not going to be a death in your family. There's a lot of things you're not self-reflecting on.
Mhm.
And so you become very stubborn in this place. So I just want to make sure we understand how this thing starts to navigate. And here's one of the things that we need to look at is we need to look at inflation, because this is where people have a hard time understanding where we are currently versus where the past was. And this has a lot of relevance to today. So here's a graph of inflation over the last 40 years. Carrie, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, this is kind of what I like to look at. It's reality for one thing, but it also helps out with explaining how important our history has been and what our future looks like on how to plan. And just basic, I've got some numbers and stuff that I kind of want to explain in here. But first, when you look at the graph from 1910 to 1970, I know everyone that's watching this did not live in 1910. I hope anyway. But the people that lived at that time, you'll see that there has been inflation there, but it's very small compared to what it's been since 1970. It's going up, tremendously. And like some of the notes that I had, these have gone up 2,000. You see on there 2,000%.
Yep, 2,000%.
Along with what else has gone up 2,000%? Not our income, that's for sure.
Right.
And one of the things too, when I look at that, is this is one of the first times that Social Security has come up on an above average of 2,000. But when you look at these graphs, so if that's your one income, people are getting, okay, finally it's gone up with that percent. But if you look at it, that percentage was so small compared to this. So if you believe you're going to be set with something as simple as your Social Security, that's a lot of work that needs to be done on that. And that's why I'm just pointing out how important this is to know, because how scary it can be. And people don't really realize until they look at this chart that inflation has gone up that much. And I know the income, even just basic Social Security, has not come up that much. When you look at other retirement plans, like your pension plans, your 401ks, anything like that, those aren't growing as fast as this has. So you need to really understand what your future is going to look like. If you can make it through now, there really isn't that guarantee that you're going to make it through later with that same kind of income. So that's one thing people don't understand. And I just like to point out this slide, and I hope people are looking at it, looking at these numbers and noticing that they really have to concentrate, learn about where they are now, learn about what they need to have. And that is the getting the help. And people don't really want to admit, because they're comfortable. They don't want to admit that they're going to have this problem. But all this stuff with inflation, everything's going up except a lot of people's income. I just read, I don't have the fact on where I read this or where it was from, but it says it's 1 out of 5 are the only people that their income is growing enough with inflation to make it. That's 1 out of 5.
Wow. That's not a good statistic.
No.
So think about this, folks. And Carrie hit the nail on the head. This is perfect. You know, we do in society, we do a lot of comparison. And the comparison that we have in this graph as well is you might be in the position where you look at your grandparents trying to do the same thing that they did before. They were able to retire at a different inflation rate. So affordability on retirement was much different. Now, whether they had a lot of income or not, the key thing is they were still able to make ends meet just based on where inflation was, and it was still affordable to retire. So that affordability had a lot to do with it. In that you probably never really sat down and had the conversation to say, did you have the affordability or not? But in this day and age, when we look at, because this graph only goes to 2000, just imagine what it is today. You're coming into a place of retirement where affordability is absolutely an issue. It's definitely a question that you need to have answered. And so I would like everybody to really take, and also, most importantly, this is something that's happening on your left shoulder. Let's just take this and remember this. This is inflation is quiet. Doesn't say anything. You just hear prices go up at the grocery store. You hear gas prices go up, but it's just a quiet. You're able to respond to it differently at this stage because, again, you're still in your working years. So let's bring up this point here. Carrie, I want you to take this one and help people understand what we need to realize about this graph.
So all these kind of things show, like the first one, is it not more expensive for the same house than it was last year? Oh my gosh, no. Just last year, the houses were cheaper than they are now. So that's just an example of, how fast it's growing. We have houses up here, North Colorado, Fort Collins, that were, I was looking at some of them, they were like 900,000 last year. That's way too expensive for one thing, but they're selling for over $1 million now. And that's just in 1 year.
Yeah.
So the expense for the same house, have prices ever dropped back down? Now there is one that's brought down, and that was the eggs. So,
we can still eat.
yeah. So they did drop down, but they're still ahead.
Yeah.
The prices are still up with what they were. Gas prices were back. I remember when they were less than $1.50 per gallon, but that's when my parents were buying the gas and I wasn't even driving yet.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the cheaper for your grandparents to live than for you, it was to a point, it wasn't that much. It was cheaper and the income was smaller, but the big point of that is they were able to really understand about how money works too, because it was so tight. But without that inflation, it was cheaper back for them. Things are just going like crazy. So people aren't really understanding the rate of that inflation, of the prices going up. They're just kind of complaining about the prices today. They're seeing the prices going up, but they're just complaining about it today and assuming that that's going to change, like the eggs did. They went back down. But they're assuming things like this going to happen. They're not really looking at that percentages that we just looked at. And, the prices in general haven't gone down. You don't see that graph showing a negative going up. It's just a continue.
Right. So it's never dropped. That's exactly right.
Never dropped. So that's the concern people are having and what they need to learn more about.
That's right. Carrie, take us on this direction here, because this is a very, very important. This is where we're starting to get into the nitty gritty as to what you've been talking about. So how does inflation affect income comfort levels? And I'm going to go ahead and set the screen up for everybody to see here. And Carrie, go ahead and explain to us what this graph shows.
So what I like about this graph is it's very simple. It's very simple to show the effects that it's having. It's basic. It does not show everything else, though, that we're going to talk about later that can totally change this. But when you look at this, you'll see that the lower income, mid-income, $40,000 per year, compared to the higher income of $250,000 a year. When you look at the graph, you see them both continue to go down because of the inflation. However, when you have the more amount, it's still going to be going down, but you have a little more flexibility that you can use to make, the ends meet as you're going through. You have more flexibility. But when you look at the annual income of $40,000, that starts getting scary because that discretionary and savings, it's going to continue to go down, and you're afraid to use that. You're afraid that it might not even be enough as it should be. So when you look at that graph, you have the red and green, and it's hard to talk about the lower with 40,000 because that's what a lot of people, I mean, we're more in the range, averages around between 40 and 60,000 in different states. That's about the average. So that's where a lot of people are now. And as you go, it gets more. So it's kind of, I don't like to compare, but what I just really want to point out is we're both in the same situation and they both work the same way. However, the other ones are a little more flexible with the money and not too stressed about the discretionary and savings, which on the other side they are. And these are the people that really need to start looking into it. What we're trying to see here is, are you set with that kind of change with that inflation?
Brilliant. So I'm going to throw this scenario at you, Carrie. So both of them are in your. So both of these people are in their accumulating years at this stage in this conversation. So do you feel like the client B, the person with the leftover discretionary savings and income of 13,333, are they more apt to do anything, or do you feel like a lot of people are more set in their ways when they have this type of income?
I think, as you were saying, as they're working, they're set. But when they start looking at getting close to retirement, this may look like a big number. But for some things with costs that we're talking about, things we're going to look at shortly here in a bit, inflation, all that, that can get scary because even though that discretionary went down to 13,000, that money is still needed. It's going to be needed somewhere else in the future. And with inflation going up, that's not going to be, what it's worth right now. So looking at it both ways, I mean, I think it can be scary for everyone if they're not really set 100% ready, because as you look at the graph, it's still green, but you see that it's going down. And with prices changing in the future and after your income stops, then that goes a little more serious.
Is it wise for a person in client B? I'm not honing it, or I am obviously honing in on client B, because here's what I've found with client B. When you have that type of money, you really get to the point where you can't be told anything, or whatever option that you're told, you're like, I'm doing. I feel that people go to that. I'm doing just fine. I'll be okay. It seems like that becomes a pattern because you're doing so well. You can afford anything. People are coming to you for help, financial help. So, but again, with you meeting with people, do you think people should actually be more aggressive with their financial decisions at this time, or do you think they can, take the foot off the gas?
I think they should. I think everybody needs to. I don't think anybody should be taking their foot off the gas at all in this whole situation, unless you're totally, perfect. But I will tell you that I know people that make over $1 million a year. I know people that make $1 million over a year, and people that aren't even close to that are like, can't even imagine. But I will tell you that those people are still looking at where their future's going, how they can save money, what they can do the best to make returns on their investments. They never slow down either. So that just shows right there that no matter what level you are, you have got to be prepared for anything. And the way that people make this a lot of money, a lot of people don't like it that they make so much money. They complain about it all the time. And I don't understand that, because these people worked for it to get it, and they understand, and they continue to ask questions, and they don't slow down. They don't put it back down in, whatever gear, third gear or whatever, and kind of relax for a while. So I think it doesn't matter at all. And with the ones that are on the more of the lower income, when they hit that discretionary end, they're afraid. They're so afraid of the market. They're so afraid of money. They're so afraid of all these things happening that they're the ones that don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So that's what the difference is. But like you said, everyone wants to continue looking at it and not be just average and coasting along.
Great point. Great point. And the most important part of this is the accumulation years versus the set income years. There's a different mindset behind both of them. And I want to bring these points to the table. In your accumulation years, you don't feel the impact of debt in the same way that you do in your set income years. In your accumulation years, you can shield yourself from reality. In your set income years, inflation really matters. In your set income years, when prices increase, it creates forced decisions. Uh, Give us your thought process in regards to how people, because that's where I see the discrepancy here, Carrie. I see more people panicking when they're set income years versus during their accumulation years. Because it's something, again, when you know that you have that check coming in tomorrow or on Friday, once a month, twice a week, whatever your frequency is, people seem to push financial planning off. But the set income years, everybody now wants to make the move, but it seems like they're strapped.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I want you to take the table and give us your point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. And the reason is because it states the fact right there. People in their accumulation years, they're feeling okay. They know their income's coming on. They have their monthly bills, their plans. They have everything set. Hopefully, a lot of people are setting aside their money for trips or for certain things they want to do, even things like their children's college, things like that. But if they're sitting there and they're understanding how to save that money too, they're comfortable. But as time continues to go by, like I said, with me hitting that age, as time goes by, they're kind of thinking about it again. Are we still comfortable? Have we done the things we want to do? So when they're young, they don't feel the impact. They're able to get in there, take care of their debt, save everything. But as you get closer and closer, and as time goes by, more things come up in your life that you don't realize are going to come up. And so then the comfort zone kind of starts changing. And I like to talk about my mentor that I have, the way Chris always would talk about. He had this wonderful, great job. He was an accountant, worked for big corporations, but he was seeing the money come in, a lot of it, but more was going out. And so even at a young age, he started freaking out. His wife told him that if she still has to continue paying for his children after that divorce, then it was sure going to be the end. So that clicked in his head right away on what I need to do about the future. And he is one of the ones that I know that makes $1 million a year, but that switched his mind right there. Even at the younger age, he did start to notice, wow, I'm not as comfortable as I need to be. And so he's the one that still today is working really hard because he was able to make those decisions, but not a lot of people do. It's mentality, it's what you're thinking, and people are waiting till the last minute, when they're getting close to retirement, that, oh my gosh, all these things have changed and I've waited way too late to think about them. And now I've got a ways to go.
Remember what I said earlier in my request to everybody as you're watching the show, thanking your set. Carrie said a golden nugget, a click. He had an epiphany at that moment because of that conversation that, oh my gosh, I need to jump on it. But remember, thanking your set can just continuously go on, and especially during these accumulation years, and will run you flat dead into your set income years. All right. So that thinking your set can actually, it's a thought process that can land you right in the middle of a dead zone. So think about that, folks. So one thing I brought up and Carrie brought up earlier was we talked about inflation being on your left-hand side. Mm-hmm. What we're going to talk about on your right-hand side is debt. So again, inflation, you got your income, and you have debt. So Carrie, we have debts and income adversely affects your accumulation. So in your earning years, you're probably not thinking about how much retirement will truly cost you. How long will it be until your debt is behind you? And also, what would happen if you were to use your savings to keep up with your debt? These are some major things that seem like they come up against your plans for retirement.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. A lot of people think that I've spoken to, they said, well, my house is going to be paid for, my car will be paid for, my kids will all be out doing their own thing, things like that. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good, especially the house being paid off. That's good. That gives you the extra bit. Um, but they don't realize that debt isn't just a big debt like a house. I mean, this has to do with all these other things. And some of these things they don't understand, or like, even though your house is paid off, there could still be problems. Now it's time to start fixing things, getting a new heater, getting new water, getting all these things fixed, which adds up the money, and you don't have insurance that pays for that. Your car might be paid off, but since it's older, it's going to start going through these problems you got to fix, things
That's
like
right.
that. They also look rising property taxes, homeowners insurance, inflation, family emergencies, things like this that just come up, in my head about what this debt, it's going to continue to go up of prices you need to pay. And especially like we talked about, like I brought up earlier, that it was a loss of a spouse, your the reduced income that comes
That's
into
right.
your family. And that's one thing that, this is kind of a side note that I talk more a lot about later, but life insurance is needed for that. So that when you do lose the spouse, you have that income and you don't have to worry about fixing that. So these are all the things in the future. Even upgrades. My mom just has to buy a new phone. She's just turned 80, but she's got to buy a new phone. And they're what,
Yeah,
$1,000? You know?
that's right. That's right.
So
It isn't. Yeah.
yeah, so I think that the debt to income, it's going to stay the same or get worse as you get older, because things that the people did not think about as they were saving for their retirement, they didn't think about these things, just the things that they were going to have already paid off.
That's a perfect example as to how inflation hits you during your non-accumulation years. The inflation on the phone that used to probably be $500 is now at this day and age, right now, 2025, 1,000. So you're sitting here scratching your head like, well, I wish this phone would have went out on me 5 years ago to where I can pay 500 versus 1,000. But that's what we're talking about as far as you having that accumulation, take care of those things. And again, it's interesting because it helps you develop a pattern, because you can buy stuff, you don't want to pay for it, but you have the means to do it and you can recover the next week or the next month. But when you're in your set income years, Gary's talking about all these things dumping on you. When you have a specific fixed income, the worst thing about it, and everybody has probably been there before, when you have a fixed income and you got problems, you don't want problems at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You try to sit still at the house all day so no problems come your way because you can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? All those problems just come knocking at the door all of a sudden. Everybody's been there before.
Yeah, one point on that
Go
real
ahead.
quick is a lot of people too, when they're not able to do things when they retire, like travel and do this thing, they say, you know what? My goal of retirement anyway was just to sit home on the porch and be relaxed. And I'm like, I get that to a point. I want to sit and just relax all the time, but don't tell me that's what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
They hit reality. It is what it is.
That's fair. It's absolutely fair. And we're going to go into this and we're going to talk about the plan and how this starts to really set in. So what makes people think they're set? So we have a scenario here of 80K a year salary, 100K in the 401K, almost maxed out, and we have 200K in the bank. That's a very good scenario. Let's be very clear. And so, Carrie, when you see people with that scenario, but here's a twist to this. Did this person account for their debt? And their debt total is 500,000. How do people look at debt when you meet with them? Do they look at it as, oh, this is good debt? Because that's one thing I've heard before in my earlier years is, oh, this is good debt. I don't look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to take the wheel and help us see what we're missing here.
Mm-hmm. So yes, you're right on that. I'll kind of look at the bottom one first with the total debt of 500,000 and what you said. A lot of people that own homes and still owe 500,000, they don't look at that as a debt, which to a point, it's kind of a good debt if you want to look at it as a tax savings, all that kind of stuff. And then you have your own home. But they don't look at it. And because of that, they don't look at it as, okay, I've only got $300,000 right now. What happens when I retire and I start using that for something else and I'm not using it for the debt that I already have? So again, they're looking at things as the debt right now is okay. My money's coming in, I'm paying for it, but they're not looking at, again, a house payment. There's still might have. A lot of people don't buy homes anymore at 25, retire at 55, and your house is paid off. A lot of people are starting to buy their house at 55. So
That's true. Yeah.
that debt's going to continue to go up even when you're retired. So when they look now at their salary, they have some money on the side. They got that 300,000. That looks good. I could probably live off that. But they're not looking again at what the cost they're already paying and what their future costs may come. So that's one thing that they just don't compare. What's that chart in accounting where you have your assets and your liability?
Yeah, that's right.
They're not looking at that.
That's right.
They're seeing more of the assets, but not worrying about this liability. So it's not matching, but they're ignoring that and not trying to figure out how to work with that.
That's absolutely fair. Carrie, when I look at the scenario, and I don't know, judge me if you will. When I look at the 500K and I look at that debt, I look at that mortgage, I never look at it as good debt. And the reason why I never look at it as good debt is because let you stop paying those bills for 1 year. That debt will come and take everything you have and give itself back. Meaning you got a mortgage person in your home. You got a Chase Bank is in relationship with the mortgage with you, or whatever bank your mortgage is through. So you got somebody on your shoulder the whole entire time. And let you not be able to afford that debt. So it's one way to look at it and say, oh, it's good debt because I own the home and I can refinance and I can do some movement. But let you not be able to make things happen. Let that unforeseen scenario come up and watch that debt come and knock at your door.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's me. And again, that's where I want to, if you need to judge me, folks, yeah. I get it. But just being real about the possibility.
Yeah, it is. And what you said about the 1 year, they're not even going to wait a year.
That's exactly right.
So, and once things start adding up, you have next month, you owe twice of what you just had now. This causes stress. It's a number one divorce. Like we talked about again on some other videos, finance is a number one divorce because if that happens, the stress comes on at the house. Things have to stop getting paid for. Yeah, it's very harmful to be able to see that change of the debt as they're not looking at it as what can really happen if this isn't going to get paid.
That's right. So with that as a side effect, I want everybody to take note of this. So the scenario has you looking at your 80K, your 100K in the 401k, and your 200K in the bank. And so in this scenario, no one can tell this person that you're doing it wrong. Also in this scenario, you can be presented another scenario about how you can do it better. However, if you've already taken yourself this far, are you really going to accept a better option? You're officially set in your ways. Remember earlier, I had everybody remember thinking about and being set. And now you're in your comfort zone. And this is what happens. What I feel happens to a lot of people is that you see your scenario only halfway. And Carrie, she seems like when she comes out to you, she's saying, hey, you got inflation on your left-hand shoulder, and you have this debt on your right-hand shoulder. Is that really what you're trying to impress upon people when you meet with them?
Yeah, that's just the start of it. That's just the beginning of what we want to look at. And when you look at the second one, you can be presented another scenario. So I just, was thinking about a lady that I know really well, and she's wealthy. So she's one that is comfortable, but still working on it. But she says that she has an advisor already. So that's cool. I'm happy for her. She's growing. But what this says is she's not accepting a better option. I, or anyone else, we're just going to say, I may have something that can help better, that can help give her more options, can help her do something different that may help her make more money. It's never guaranteed. I don't even know what she has, but I'm just saying they're comfortable, so they're not going to look at other options because they think they're set. And so that's one thing. When they get into these scenarios, you're set in your own ways, you're in your comfort zone. I'm doing fine, so I really don't think there's anything better out there for me because I'm taken care of. But there are so many different things that each person or each other company or different people have that they can at least share with you, offer these other options that these people might not even know are available.
Yeah.
So
So true.
Yeah,
And
it's just, you got to just keep your mind open, look for different options, and just help yourself. Focus on yourself for your help.
On that note of keeping your options open, want everybody to be clear. It's not about just working. It's not just trying to work with you. It's about looking at this. And this next slide here is what is the hole in your plan? That's what Carrie is addressing right now. And when she meets with you, she's looking at your plan and trying to figure out what that hole is. What's not in reality? What's not operating at a high level? Because again, when we're talking about your lifestyle, we're talking about you thinking you're set in your 20s and coming to that point of realities when you're like, oh crap. And here's that oh crap. Here's a couple of those statements of, you may not have included the future as well as you thought you should have. It probably didn't take into account your debt. If you feel like your debt is good debt, well, that means you're not taking into account your debt. It doesn't include your future life events. And I'll have Gary I'll talk about that one in a second here, but it does not include the fact that you will stop accumulating. So remember, when you're in your accumulation years, you're feeling a certain way, but you've never felt what it is to not work anymore. It's a whole shocker to your system. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't include the actual real number, which is what we're going to get into next. But Carrie, take us away on something that really stood out to you in those points.
The first thing is when you didn't include the future, and those were things that I talked about before. I gave those examples of things that are growing. But one of the things is that people don't understand too, long-term care, your health care and your long-term care. We have Medicare out there and some other, insurance plans that help. But even without that, the deductibles and the things people are paying is around $165,000 average that they're going to be paying a year that's not included in that long-term care and everything that covers it. It's like we talked about before, the more people are afraid of using all the money before death. So they're more afraid of living without money than they are of actually dying. And that's really scary because they haven't planned on these things. And then also, this is going to come up, I think, a little bit later too, but when we look on does not include the fact that it will stop accumulating. Well, that's one thing we have to look at is when people start getting to their retirement and they want to start being able now to live off what they've made, we have to remember that you're not accumulating anymore and inflation is rising. So it is still very important that you need to have that money somewhere where it's growing at least at a minimum 3%, whatever the inflation is, so that you can stay with inflation. So your money still needs to be invested. And people are kind of afraid and worried about that too. You want to be at a lower risk and have some available emergency cash, but you've got to have some of that money still working for you, or you're never going to accumulate more money and you're not going to be able to beat inflation.
1000%, Gary. When I think about this, and this is why, again, judge me if you will, I still love you. When it comes to looking at retirement, remember retirement is a benefit. It's not a have to do. That is what that is. So when we're talking about coming to a stopping point of accumulating, you're saying that I'm going to accept whatever benefit I earned, on a monthly stipend every month at the exact same rate. Set income versus accumulation. That's what you're coming into when you're in this when you're thinking about your plan of retirement. So those things, you got your right hand side, your debt, and you got your left hand side accumulation. If they're not adding up, if the math is not adding up, you have to make this plan. Something has to accumulate during the midst of the non-accumulation. You still have to accumulate. That's what I'm really coming down to. Would that be fair to say, Carrie? Or am I off? Again, everybody's already judging me already. I get it.
Judging. That's why some people are where they are. That's okay. But
something
I totally
still has
agree.
to accumulate, right?
Yep, it still has to accumulate, even if you feel comfortable, like you were saying, with the income that's coming. You still have to be adjustable to be able to work with what your future's coming. What you're going to have to do in your future. And in both of these situations, one of them you're in your comfort zone, and the next one you're either going to be in it or not, because it depends on what you're doing over here.
There you go.
So you have to blend it all in together. They're not totally separate. You've got to work through this through your whole life, pretty much, as a financial plan. And a lot of people plan more on their vacations than they do on their future finance-wise. And that's scary.
Yeah, so true. And remember, there are certain things that it's hard to plan for a place that you've never been. Sometimes you don't want to, and Carrie's, it seems like when she meets with you, she's trying to help you understand you don't want to get to this place of just being stuck in it and not really realizing what needs to be done. And this is why we're going to talk about the real number. And I want everybody to really pay attention to what that is, because this is probably scary for a lot of people, but again, it is a real number. So let's talk about what that means. So why is the real number so vital to your financial decisions? The real number will tell you what decisions you need to make today. It's also the number you have to tell you the truth and also confront your current plan. It's the number that you have to confront your comfort, and the real number gets you to the real plan. So that means, for I want everybody to set the stage, and Carrie, go ahead and take away after this, is your plan is good, but is it correct? One thing I'm learning in my adult years here, my getting smarter years, I should say, is that it's one thing to be right, but it's another thing to actually be in truth. And that is what this real number is to do. Is, yes, your plan is good, but is it true? Is it absolute? Is it really are you really on the direction that you need to go? And so I want Carrie to take it away at this point. And Carrie, tell us how you feel about that thought.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, do that little thing again. I don't know. So I don't know what you heard while I was talking, but so when we look through this, the real number will tell you your decision to make today, but you're not seeing your real number. Again, you're seeing a number that's not real. So it's not really hitting your future. It's the only number you have to tell that's the truth, reality. Yeah. It's not, it's not good or bad. It is what it is. You don't want to have that negativeness in it. You don't want to have that exciting, positive comfort in it. You just need to be in the zone of where we're going to look both ways and see where is comfort really is, and how much do I really need to have to hit this real plan that I'm not thinking about right now. And I think this next example really shows the impact that this has on it.
Sure. Let's go ahead and bring up this next example. So I want everybody to open your mind for a minute and I'm going to ask you this question as you open your mind. So, what if a person like Carrie was to come to you and tell you that your real number is $2.6 million? Go ahead and break that down for us, Carrie, as to why that is.
Okay, so this gets in, I think, is as much as a big point as that graph was. And that's because so many people do not have the $2.6 million. They just don't have it. It is reality. And people are not thinking they need to make that much. So when it comes to this example, and I'm going to give more detail on some other things, but this example is 100,000 a year. Now remember, we just talked about inflation. If you're already making 100,000 or plus, like the 250 that we showed on there, that inflation is still going to hit you. So 100,000 a year after tax is really not that much. The next one, the retirement age is 65. Well, now with things going on and people living longer, this could go up to 70, 75. But with that example, the 65 is 26 years. And with that scenario, it'll take you to 91 years old. So this right here shows again, you live longer than you have money. So this is what needs to have in your account. Some of your money still needs to be in the market to be able to be getting that 3% return minimum, at least to go with inflation, because we don't want your money to all of a sudden disappear at 91 because you just started using your investment as a cash savings account. That's where the problem is here too, but it's 2.6 million. And I'm going to give an example on this that was very harsh to learn. And I keep bringing my dad up in a lot of these things because of the experience I had, which I never thought I'd have before. And now I know how other people are feeling and how other people are working with their families in their instance. But my dad had an awesome para, which here in Colorado is kind of like the 401k plan that you can have, or your annuity plan, I guess you can say, that it gives you income for life. My dad had put in, I'm looking at the numbers, I'm looking over here to make sure. My dad put in about $200,000. So he's got $200,000 in his retirement plan, and he retired at the age 55. Now, when I look back at that, you know how much money he has spent since he retired at 55? He has spent over $2.5 million. Now, in this situation, he was set because he did have a great retirement plan. Thank goodness. Because most people do not, and they see that they've made 200,000 and that they're able to be okay with that. But when I look back at that, knowing that my dad had to use $2.6 million, and that was on he was in assisted living, but it was a very lower cost one, around $5,000 a month, I think. And then we had some different things for him. But without that extra money that he had, he wouldn't be able to make it. So my point on here is, for those people that do not have those benefits of income for life, you need to have that $2.6 million or whatever it is that you calculate for your future that you need, because that's where it showed reality. I was like, okay, Dad had 200,000 a year and he's doing fine. Well, no, thank God that he had more, because he spent his income was right around $2.5 million for the rest of his life. And he wouldn't have been able to survive if he didn't have that. So this is where people really need to start thinking, if they have a 401k that's got a couple 100,000, even 500,000, and then they're thinking of their Social Security coming in, they think it's a big number, but it's not. Reality hit, and you need to save your money. You need to know that in reality, you need around $2 million to survive with inflation and with the amount of money that's coming in every year. So that's the point I really want to make, is you think you're set. And my dad, along with my mom, did at one time think that they were set because they believed in their retirement plan. But on the other hand, they didn't save any money. I hate saying that, but my parents did not do another IRA or any other retirement savings plan because they saw that they were going to get that lifetime income from their para, which is totally awesome. But if they didn't have that, they'd be in the same position these other people are, and that sucks. So
Yeah.
people need to realize that this is the dollar, this is the real number that you're going to need to retire, unless you have money getting handed down by parents, which is another reason some parents are losing their retirement income because they're helping their children. It's things like this, where the money is going, that people really need to see reality in the future. Social Security may be here or not, but like on the other example I gave, Social Security finally went up like 76%, but the inflation in just things in the store, like the eggs, was 141%. So you just have to really concentrate on that and look at your future. But that was a big impact, and that's what I want people to know. I want my clients to know that and understand that this is reality. You're not counting the things you need to have if you actually want to retire. So this is one point I want everybody to think about and look into, and how people can help you get to these points if we can. Don't wait until you're 40. Don't wait till you're 50. Younger people even need to start looking in it as young as their 20s. Like, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known back then. I would have done it. So this is for every age and for any kind of income, any kind of money that people have already saved. This is what people need to see and learn and understand.
Huge. And with everything that Carrie said, I want everybody to take a look at this graph again. So we talked about inflation before, but now we're going to talk about, and come to the end here, we're going to talk about non-accumulation. What scenario do you want to be in? Do you want to be inclined A? And again, no judgment, but at your non-accumulation years, doing this for another 25 years at that rate. The possibility is there. And we showed you debt. We also showed you inflation. So do you want to do it this way? Carrie had mentioned that had her father not done this, she would have to pick up the slack, because he would probably be inclined A. Would that be correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So she would have had to pick up the slack, or it would have had to come up from somewhere. And so I want you to think about the impact on your decision and how you need to be prepared for it, because ultimately you want to be sitting where client B is sitting. At 13K, if you can accumulate that month after month, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing fine. You want to at least accumulate, at least be set on that number, than having to be set on 533. And that's the point of that such high number. And I know people come at it, and Carrie's told me multiple stories on people like, yeah, right, I'm never going to get there. So you've already set yourself on a particular standard, when she's trying to introduce you to the real standard as to where you need to be. Carrie, did you want to mention anything, or did you have anything that you wanted to say on that note?
I'm just thinking and listening, and when you pulled this slide up, the ultimate goal is to position yourself to not be concerned with money anymore and retire set. It's definitely one thing I like to point out to people too is, yes, there are a lot of negative people out there, and it's reality. It sucks, but there are so many negative people out there that when they get to a point that they see that they're not going to make enough money for retirement, then they put themselves in that position of not looking at other possibilities, other ways to make money. And today, in this world now, there's so many easy ways you can make extra money, And so if I love working with people that are seeing, okay, I have these options. I want to get from here to here, A to B. So what do I need to do to get there? So these are other people that they look at their finances, they're concentrated on the future, and their mind has went a different direction and said, okay, I've got to find something. I can do this. Let's work it out. But there are other people that just listen to what the news says, what the government says, and they feel like they're stuck. But there are so many other possibilities out there, and people can hit them if they would just pay attention to their finances, where they're going, where they want to be, and hit reality so that you're set.
It's just that. That's right. Gary, you said it just perfectly. What would be one final move a person needs to make after hearing everything that we're talking about as far as thinking about being set? What is the next viable move for a person after watching this? What do you need people to do?
Yep. Right now, what I need people to do is take 15 to 30 minutes of your day or over the weekend, the next time you have time, sit down, go to your bank account, do your financials for the last month, last 2 months, look what you have, do a whole financial strategy for yourself. Take 30 minutes of that personal life for you, because that 30 minutes could change everything in your future, because you'll see where you are now, what options you have that can change your future. Do it now. Take some time, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, to sit down, look at your goals and what you have. And if you have any questions or need any help on anything, then I'm here for you to help with that, because I want you to reach those goals. It will make me very happy.
And that's what we're trying to do, is make you very happy, Carrie.
It's great. I love helping people. It's a win-win situation for all of us.
Yeah. Fantastic point, Carrie. And thank you for the show. And thank you for your thought process, because again, this one is transcending. No matter what generation watches this show, it makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciate you tackling it from this angle. So thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you next month with some more juicy financial information.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. We will see you next time. All right, everybody. I want to personally thank you for taking the time out of your schedule for listening to Carrie to really understand her depth of information and knowledge. When you think that you're set, this is the big deal, folks. Be exact. That's the message I want to send to everybody: is be exact. Know that you're set. If you have any doubt, time. You don't get back time, as everybody has witnessed. You're not going to do this all over again. This is the one shot. So take this one shot and take the moment to meet with people like Carrie. She had you go to the bank and go look at your bank statements and see that. Get a forecast. See what you're headed towards based on your current scenario. And have somebody from the outside looking in, just like you go to the doctor, from the outside looking in, to see what you can't see, and give you that advice, so that way you can make sure that if you're going to do this plan called retirement, that you're doing it correctly, that you're doing it in truth. Don't be wise in your own eyes when it comes to your own plan, because again, it's always going to feel comfortable to you because, well, it's your plan. But when Carrie brings to the table, she brings a different plan, which is uncomfortable because it's not your plan. But this plan may be the plan that's going to set the stage and make you, when you're sitting down on the porch, on the couch, traveling, or whatever you have going on, that you're not sitting there in Regretville saying, I wish I would have did something when I was 45. I wish I would have did something when I was 50. Because wishing does not bring back time. Being present and just saying, I'm glad I did, is a statement that Carrie wants to position you to say, I'm glad I met with her. I'm glad I made that new choice. It means a lot. And there's one less conversation that you have to have with yourself and your spouse. So at any rate, thank you all for joining us. Carrie and I, we actually have to get back to work, so we'll see you next time. Have a good one.